Welcome to WikiAfrica Hour, where Africa's Wikimedians talk to, learn from, and discuss with each other topics they choose. Each session is curated by African Wikimedians to expand Africa's open movement. Today's host is Cecilus Obanyaya.
Hello everyone. I welcome you to yet another interesting episode of WikiAfrica Hour, which is our sixth episode where we'll be discussing the work that goes on behind some of the notable but curious wiki acronyms or ciphers, like somebody called them, like UCOC, EDGR, SCF, and U4C, only to mention but a few. I remain Cecilus Obanyaya. Of course, bringing you this topic, this action reiterates the aim for which Wiki in Africa activated the WikiAfrica Hour podcast, which is first to share current updates and highlights of Africa Wikimedian activities and interact with guests, if any, and take questions from community members, and then promote synergy within the Wiki community by discussing topics, projects, constraints, collaborations, and opportunities. This is why we have invited some very special guests to this episode. First, we have the UCOC, the EDGR, and the U4C. The UCOC Universal Code of Conduct is a key policy initiative from the Wikimedia 2030 movement strategy, community conversations, and strategy process. The strategy groups consulted Wikimedians from the global communities and put forth 10 recommendations to guide the movement towards the 2030 vision. One of the recommendations is to provide for safety and inclusion, included drafting a code of conduct, of course, the Universal Code of Conduct, like it's popularly known. The UCOC, as it's called in short, is being developed in consultation with communities from across the Wikimedia movement with respect to context, existing local policies, as well as enforcement and conflict resolution structures. Previous community discussions about the Universal Code of Conduct can be found on the UCOC meta page, which we'll share the link. And then today we welcome Patrick Earley, Sam Oyeyele, and Pascale Walter to give us details of the UCOC journey so far. We'll start with you, Patrick. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, Cecilus.
You're welcome. Could you please introduce yourself, starting with your name?
So, hello, everyone. I'm Patrick Earley. I'm based in Canada, and I work for the Foundation in the Trust and Safety Policy team. And that's how I got involved with this Universal Code of Conduct project.
Thank you for that swift introduction. And then we have seen the process go on so far. What could you say necessitated the UCOC initiative?
Well, you've mentioned the movement strategy process, of course, and it was a high recommendation in that process. But probably on a bigger picture, when you volunteer your time for free for something, you shouldn't be mistreated. You shouldn't go through a lot of negative experiences. And so I think conduct policy in general is very important. And it has to have fair systems around it as well. I think that's very important. But I think we had different rules in different parts of our movement. Different projects had different policies. And when you move from, say, your wiki over to Commons, over to Meta, it can be confusing what the expectations are. So I think there was a hope that we could have more consistency across the movement. And then I think, could I give over to Sam to talk a little bit about how our medium and small communities might have different needs? Sam?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for roping in, Sam. Sam, please introduce yourself first before you engage.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Sam. I'm Nigerian, and I joined the Wikimedia Foundation this January to facilitate the Universal Code of Conduct enforcement process for the West African communities. So that included the Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, and 3 communities. And yeah, like Patrick said, there was a need to make sure that we have a universal or a centralized policy that sort of guides the behavior of volunteers and community members across the movement. And generally, these needs kind of vary according to different communities, whereby we have some communities that are large, already have their behavioral policies in place, have everything set up the same, well sorted. We also do have the smaller and medium scaled communities whereby they don't have this privilege. Some do not have policies at all. Some have policies that are being copied directly from the English Wikipedia, for instance. And these policies sometimes are not even translated. Sometimes they are not used at all. Then we have some other communities whereby we have administrators who just sort of like enforce behavioral policies based on just like common sense or just based on what feels right. So it became very important to have a sort of a baseline rule or a baseline policy that guides this behavior of volunteers, of community members, of staff, of all stakeholders across the movement that are working on Wikimedia projects. So this is supposed to be the baseline behavior. This can be built upon, but you can't actually remove from it. But this is something that can be built upon by different communities. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you so much, Sam. That surely throws more light for us to see what is actually there. And then, Patrick, the phase 1 of the initiative says policy consultation.
Yeah.
I mean, we know what the phase was all about in details, as of course summarized as possible.
So we started looking at different communities that had different sort of levels of policy, like Sam was talking about. Some communities had very organic policies that they wrote themselves. Some communities, as Sam said, have just copied policies from other places. And we also had communities that hadn't really written any, and these are quite often our newer communities that don't have the time or the labor to do a lot of policy work yet. They're sort of getting to that stage. And so the goal of phase 1 was to look at a sort of a slice of the movement. And so we talked to 19 different communities in those sort of 3 categories. You know, more developed structures, middle level structures, and then not much at all. And we needed to talk to those people where they were. So instead of saying, hey, come to Meta, please, and if you speak English, great, you can contribute. We didn't want that process. And so we wanted to have people that the communities knew and trusted to go to their wikis and talk to them there in their own languages. And so that was the priority for phase 1, was to talk to these communities about their needs around policy, about their worries about a big policy, what could go badly. And the goal of all of this was to give the first drafting committee, Pascale was on the second drafting committee, but the first committee really wrote the body of the policy. They needed some insight from around the movement on the different needs for policy. And I think it worked very well. We got a lot of engagement from people. I think people really appreciated having different ways to talk. They could talk on Wiki. They could talk in video calls like these. They could fill out surveys if they wanted. So we really wanted to give people different ways to talk. And I think that worked well in the end. So yeah, I think it went quite well. We had a lot of participation, into the thousands of people participating.
Thank you so much. And then Sam, over to you. As one of the UCOC facilitators, at least I have seen your involvement much in the phase 2. Can you say that the set out goals so far, though it ends on 17th October, can you say that the set out goals are maybe on their way to being achieved? Are they key performance indicators you use in measuring the success?
Thank you for the question, Cecilus. Well, when we started out the process to reach out to communities regarding the enforcement, we didn't actually have a set KPI that we want to go by, but we just want to ensure that we reach out to as many communities as possible and make sure that we're able to talk to and engage a lot of communities within our movement as practically possible. So I would say, yeah, we did achieve a lot with the enforcement phase of the process. We were able to reach out to around 22 communities, and then we got feedback from over 3,000 feedback. So even on the West African side of things, we were able to speak to and get responses from uh, over 100 community members, and half of those, for instance, came from the Yoruba communities. And when you measure it, we see that that's like the same size as the active editors on this Wikipedia. So we're able to achieve this. We're able to speak to as many people as possible and get their feedback. And so I would say it was a success, because at the end of it, we were able to come up with the enforcement drive guidelines, which were the guidelines that were drafted by the drafting committee, which Pascale here is amongst. These guidelines were drafted based on the recommendations that we got from various communities, including African communities, the West African communities. Uh, these guidelines happened. So I would say we were able to achieve what we set out to do. And of course, the feedback that we've gotten from the enforcement draft guideline reviews that's currently going on the EDGR shows that a lot of community members are also still engaging on it and reviewing that, and those would also be taken on board going forward.
Thank you so much for mentioning those numbers. They say numbers don't lie. At least now we have an idea of what the turnout looks like. Thank you. And then Patrick, over to you. We have seen very great initiatives in the movement, but then there are those who contribute from outside the, of course, Wikimedia known collectives, and they are often left out. How do you make sure that the UCOC makes provision for such people as the process manager?
Yeah, so I think, the drafting committee is thinking about this problem a lot, that for experienced users, if you're around for 1 or 2 years or 3 years, you know who to talk to if there's a problem. You know which notice board to go to. You maybe seen successfully how a behavior problem gets dealt with. But for a new user, right now on most of our projects, you have no idea. It takes so long to try and figure it out. And so I think the drafting committee is really thinking about how to make reporting more clear, reporting a problem more clear, making the expectations more clear if there is a problem, like who will be dealing with it. And of course, having a very clear policy of what's expected from each other. I think new users like to see that. So if I'm choosing where to volunteer my time, if I see a very clear set of rules, it might make it more attractive to me to contribute. And I think those are some of the big things that are beneficial to others.
Okay. Thank you so much. If I understand you well, anybody who contributes to the Wikimedia movement, whether under maybe a known user group or outside, actually is being carried along in this process.
Yes, and we've been trying to talk to lots of groups that run editathons and efforts to bring in new users, GLAM and cultural institutions, trying to make sure that we understand the needs of those more sort of occasional users, users who aren't on every day, but do come back year after year, but they're not on there every day. And so we need to have their needs on the table as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I know they are listening, and you've reassured them by them hearing this. Thank you so much. And then, Patrick, before we move on, what is your favorite wiki acronym? And then you can give us the full meaning.
It's a good topic. I mean, I will say that the acronyms are sometimes part of the problem, that a new user sees all these acronyms and are like, how am I ever supposed to, this is like a new language. They go to a notice board and they're like, what language are you speaking with all of these acronyms? But I mean, they're shorthand, I guess. They make explaining things seem more easy sometimes. But I don't know. One I like, it's on English Wikipedia, and it's called Beans. And it's the story about how a mother says to her child, don't put beans up your nose. Good idea. But the kid sort of hears that, and he's like, huh, beans up my nose. And he sticks a bean up his nose. So I think the story is about how you shouldn't talk too specifically about bad things that people can do, because people will do the bad things.
Okay.
Anyway, I like beans.
Okay. Thank you so much. How about you, Sam? Do you have a favorite wiki acronym that you would like to let us into?
Yeah, so if I have to choose an acronym that I would say sticks with me, I would say the BITE acronym. So that basically says do not bite newcomers. So I feel like it sort of resonates a lot with, especially if you're working within the African communities, that you see a lot of newcomers having issues when they try to edit the big Wikipedias, especially. Uh, I feel like that acronym says a lot on the kind of behavior that the experienced Wikipedias should sort of imbibe more, because it can be really crazy when you're a newcomer and then you get into like the amongst the experienced editors, you see that they're trying to like come for you and things like that. So that bite sort of tells me like, do not attack newcomers. Try to treat everyone with respect and try to just make sure that you fairly treat people, even if they're newcomers. It doesn't mean you have to like attack them or try to like think that they are there to disrupt the Wikipedia. You can just let them be. You're once also a newbie, so yeah.
Okay, Sam, could you give us the spelling of this bite?
Just as it says, like bite, BITE.
Okay, thank you. And Patrick, the bin you talked about?
Yeah, so it's just WP Beans, like BEANS.
Okay,
BEAN.
Okay.
Sorry, like beans.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
sorry.
much.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So, Pascal, we'll be moving on to you. Please introduce yourself, starting with your name.
Perhaps it's better with a microphone. Do you
Okay,
hear me
sure.
correctly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I'm Pascale Camus Walter. I am from France, and I am a member of the Phase 2 drafting committee. I'm living in Strasbourg, capital of Europe, and I'm working in digital editing for my job.
Okay. Thank you so much for that brief introduction. We understand that the phase 2 of the UCOC is currently ongoing. And then we know that there is a drafting committee for this phase. In detail, please explain the role of this committee.
The code is a very strong text, and by good drafting, I think it will become living, and it will ameliorate the everyday life of the contributor, because when you write a code, it's not enough. You must also provide clear guidelines for people who have to apply the code, who have to mediate, to judge cases, sometimes to sanction or to escalate a case, make an appeal, etc. So the drafting process and the document which will come from this drafting process is important, and we have a great responsibility because there are a lot of parameters to take in account. As you know, Wikipedia and the spaces of Wikimedia are very complicated spaces, so it takes a little bit work to that everything is covered in the draft.
Okay. Thank you so much for letting us know that it will guide the everyday life of an average contributor on Wikipedia.
Yes.
And then, what does it take to be part of this drafting committee?
Pardon me? I have noise
What
in
does
my
it
background.
take
What I?
to be part of the drafting committee?
Yes. What does it take to be part of the drafting committee?
Yes.
I was very happy to be part of this committee, to be chosen, and it's a great experience because it's a teamwork. It's always interesting to see how people understand the things differently, or as you could understand them. We are from different countries, different cultures, and how people want to change some wordings, how we discuss about, do we change this in this way or this other way, and there is also a big input from the community that we must take in account. So it's a big discussion, and on the other hand, we must be very organized to make a paper which people can understand and work with. So there are two different things to connect.
Okay. Thank you so much for that detail. And then you are in the heart of this drafting committee. I know Sam has talked about the current outcomes, but you being an insider, what can you say about the outcome of the process so far? I mean, it ends on 17th, but what can you say?
So I didn't know at the beginning how it would work. What is interesting is that the WMF staff is helping us in it's a development of a text, and so they help the committee members and they frame the drafting. It's written by different parties. The WMF has a legal responsibility. There is a legal department. There are the drafters, and we must also take in account the input from the community. So it's three-handed, I would say. And as a committee member, we must be sure that everything is comes in with a good proportion. Everything is okay, and it's very interesting experience because it's a very technical, professional part, a human part. It's very diverse and it's great. I think we can make a living process with something which we could say, well, it's just a code or a rule. No, it's more than that.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we continue, there is a question from Kevin Rack. The question says, are there any mediation policies to mitigate any conflicts? Any of you could answer, Sam?
You mean in the committee or for the implementation of the code?
I think the question directs to the implementation. So, Patrick, it might be best for you to step in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the topic of mediation, I mean, it's a very complex topic, and I think the drafting committee is thinking about it. I mean, you can't just have a sort of a police approach to problems. Sometimes you need to help people work through problems. And so I think thinking about how our communities escalate problems is part of what the drafting committee is thinking about. They're thinking about arbitration committees as well. And so people might not be familiar with them if they don't have them on their wiki. But some of our big wikis have committees that take on disputes that are really not solving themselves and try and help them work through. And so I think the drafting committee is thinking about the best structures that aren't just sort of, hard enforcement structures, but ways that people can solve problems in different ways. But mediation is a lot of work. It's a lot of emotional work, a lot of emotional labor. And so when we think about mediation in our communities, we have to have some good support for mediation processes. I think the drafting committee is talking about better mentoring, better training. I think these are things that could help with mediation. But anyone who's ever tried to mediate a conflict between two people who or groups of people who are very angry with each other, they know how slow and how hard that is. So yeah, mediation is very difficult, but we are thinking about it for sure.
Okay. Kemiwa, I hope that answers your question. So the next question is for you, Patrick. The code enforcement officers and the U4C are said to be the chosen enforcers of the Universal Code of Conduct. Can we get an idea of how these people were chosen?
Hmm. Well, I might give some of this over to Pascale because it was her and her colleagues' idea to have code enforcement officers. But I
Oh,
think the idea here is that um, people who are enforcing the policy should have a designation, and they've really asked the community what they think in this EDGR process, this EDGR process. They've asked the community what do they think about these officers, how should they operate. Should they be existing administrators? Should they be a new group? And so they're asking the community that question. I think we need to hear from people what they want to see in terms of who is enforcing it. And the name could change too. I think the drafting committee was clear. These are sort of placeholder names. And so I'd ask everyone who's watching, if you don't like the name, please help us find a new name. You know, code enforcement officer sounds very, very official. And so if there's a better name, we'd love to hear about it. But I'll give it to Pascale to talk a bit about that officer role and what she was what the drafting committee was thinking about it.
okay. Pascal, over to you.
Yeah, yes, it's not fixed at the moment. We wanted to address it to the community. The name has no importance. We can change the name. It can be that people have a task, or it's just a task you can have when you are already an administrator. There are also two parts in the code. There is a preventive part where people can make trainings and explain to people what is the code, etc. This could be also a part of an enforcement, and the other part is coercive. This is what we do now. We did it for our content, and we have admins, and they only did coercive work on the content for vandalism, etc. Now it's a little broader with the code, and perhaps it's a function. It must not necessarily be a person, but when someone is an admin, is also a code enforcer. I don't know how we could say it in English, but the enforcement of the code is does only concern the code itself. There may be other type of administration or fight against vandalism, etc., which might not be in the code. So this is only for the code itself. So perhaps we might make a difference. I think we don't have to dramatize the code. The implementation of the code should not be dramatized too much. It's not so complicated. They are baseline things that we must do, and they are. I think it's easier to do than perhaps we think. Officer, no, perhaps it's too like a policeman. But if you have an idea, propose a name.
Oh, of course, I know a lot of people in the movement would perhaps have an idea. I mean, Florence already told us we could call them code enforcement officers, CEO, quite executive, I would say. But then, thanks for letting us know. Thank you for letting us know he's still in the process of adopting. Yes. Thank you so much. And then Patrick, lastly, we can of course say the 17th will be the end of the phase 2 process. How soon can we see the new COC take effect? What's next?
So I should clarify, October 17th is when the committee, Pascale's community, goes back to work. And so they start looking at all the comments that people have left, and there are hundreds and hundreds of comments about new names for things, but also how things should escalate. And so the drafting committee will sit down, and they have some hard work, it's true, to sort of figure out some of the details that weren't in the draft and make some small changes to the language of the draft. I think they've seen some easy fixes for better language to make it easier to read. And so they'll work for a while on that. We'll start taking these changes back and putting them in the community for comments so that people can look at them. And then we need to talk about a bit of a ratification process. So what is the final closing of this so the communities will be happy? And, not everyone will be happy, of course, but the communities can start moving forward with the UCOC. So we hope by the new calendar year, by the beginning of 2022, we can start talking about implementation in our communities. And some of the things that the drafting committee is recommending are technical. So they're saying that there needs to be a better reporting system. So we need to start working hard on that. People at the foundation product teams need to start helping with that, how we can build a better reporting system. Of course, our volunteer developers will have ideas as well about how to do that within MediaWiki. I think the drafting committee is talking about having a UCOC committee, U4C as it's called in the draft again. But we need to talk about what that committee needs for support to get it set up, how it will be elected, who will sit on that committee. So there's some details to work out before we can say that UCOC is fully operational or fully in the world. But already people are using the text from UCOC in their own policies. We see our chapters starting to put them into their own documents and their own expectations. We've seen communities like the French Wikipedia dig in deep and already look at UCOC and say, is it different from our policies? What are the differences? What do we have to look at? And so communities are already starting that process, and I think that's amazing.
All right. Thank you so much for at least giving us insight on when we can expect the discussion on implementation. Starting the year 2022 with that will be very, very reassuring that, of course, the 2030 movement strategy discussion was not maybe going to be delayed and will be achieved in good time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you for providing answers to the questions asked, Patrick, Sam, and Pascale. And hopefully there will be more questions from the audience during the Q&A session. So guys, in the light of today's acronyms in discussion, or wiki ciphers like someone called them, the UCOC means Universal Code of Conduct, EDGR means Enforcement Draft Guidelines Review, and U4C means Universal Code of Conduct Coordinating Committee. And so we move on to the second panel where we have Sandra Aceng from WikiIndaba. She is in charge of the scholarship for this year's WikiIndaba 2021, which has been scheduled to be a virtual conference coming up in November 5th to 7th. WikiIndaba is a Wikimedia community conference supported by the Wikimedia Foundation with interest, of course, in African content topics of representation and dialogue, such as Wikimedia projects like Wikipedia and other wikis, open source software, free knowledge, free content, and how these projects affect the African continent. It was debuted in 2014 in South Africa, and then happened in Ghana in 2017, and was held in Tunisia in 2018, and hosted in Nigeria in 2019. COVID prevented the 2020 conference, which was planned to happen in Uganda. And this year, Wikimedia Uganda user group gets to host the first ever virtual WikiIndaba, which promises to have, of course, the largest audience so far. But there are still some factors that could limit the participation, hence today's topic involving the person in charge of scholarship for the WikiIndaba 2021. Hello, Sandra.
Hi, thank you for having me.
The pleasure is always ours. Can you briefly introduce yourself, starting with your name?
Okay, so Sandra Aceng is my name, and I am a volunteer at the Wikimedia Community User Group Uganda. So I joined the user group in 2018 through an editathon that was Wiki Africa by then. And then since then, I've been participating in organizing editathon and also contributing on Wikipedia. So currently, I'm leading projects such as Wiki Loves Human Rights and also Wiki for Refugees. So during the WikiIndaba this year, I am leading the scholarship team. And yeah, I'm really excited that we are pulling this off and we will be able to support as many people as possible to connect and share their insight during the conference. Thank you.
Thank you for that embodiment of introduction. And during the WikiAfrica Hour episode 4, Alice Kibombo, who happens to be the project lead for 2021 WikiIndaba, she mentioned that the WikiIndaba co-organizing team would push for individual scholarship for this year's virtual WikiIndaba conference. And we can see people pulled it off. How was this possible? And how did you get to adopt the name Scholarship Connectivity Fund, SCF?
Okay, so this was possible in a way that, as you already introduced it, WikiIndaba has been happening entirely physical, and of course, we were not able to have it in 2019 due to COVID-19 pandemic, and of course, we had to plan around that, and of course, the WikiIndaba scholarship used to be given to groups, to communities, and to groups, to communities around Wikimedia. And of course, we have also seen this in various conferences that has been happening. So we felt that this being a virtual conference due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we could have a scholarship connectivity fund to support various individuals to participate, share their views during the conference. And of course, it's also an opportunity for people who are not yet part of the, who do not belong to groups or user groups, name it, to also be part of the scholarship beneficiaries. So that is how we pull it off. And talking about the scholarship connectivity fund, so yes, the major thing is to connect, and connectivity comes with access to the internet. So we came with the name Scholarship Connectivity Fund because our major aim is to ensure that various Wikimedians, African Wikimedians mostly within the continent and also in the diaspora, are able to connect and also contribute meaningfully and also actively share during the conference, hence the Scholarship Connectivity Fund. Thank you.
Wow, that was quite a plot you guys used to achieve that purpose. And I'm happy you mentioned it here. Perhaps that has given people who are hoping to pull the individual scholarship thing an idea on how to go about it, and perhaps maybe they would adopt your name, even the Scholarship Connectivity Fund, to make it as inclusive as possible. Thank you for that response. And then, what does the scholarship cover? What can be asked for in the scholarship?
Okay, so there are various things that we have asked for. First of all, this scholarship at the beginning was supposed to target 70 people in total, and of course, each person was supposed to have like $100. But to have as many people as possible to participate, we thought of dividing the scholarship fund into three, that is 50, 75, and $100, depending on your participation also during the Wiki Indaba conference that is happening in November. So some of the things that we are considering is direct connecting, that is purchasing internet data to be able to access and use to be able to access and also participate during the conference. And of course, we all know that the connectivity or internet data in Africa is quite expensive. And of course, also we were looking at supporting people to connect. Of course, you might not be having a laptop, but you're able to travel to another internet cafe to be able to access a computer or access better connectivity. And of course, we were also looking at secure connectivity. Someone can purchase a privacy screen or would want to use VPN. And of course, we are also looking at the aspect of the child care to enable active participation during the conference. So looking at what we asked for is we wanted to have people who have experience in offline contribution. This could be organizing editathons, events that are related to contribution on Wikipedia, and then also online contribution, of course. Do you contribute to Wikidata? Do you contribute to various projects that are under Wikipedia? And of course, we are also looking at what have been the values that you have added in the previous WikiIndaba conferences that you have attended. Yeah, so those are the brief consideration that we have been considering, and we want this to be as simple as possible, and we want as many people as possible to have the opportunity to attend the conference and connect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You've almost delved into answering the next question, but perhaps I should help you blow it open. You mentioned impact in previous WikiIndaba conferences will be considered while considering someone's scholarship application, right?
Yes.
Are there other things that will be considered? Are there other factors that you will put into consideration?
Yeah, there are also other considerations. Actually, yesterday we had a meeting with the scholarship committee, and also we are looking at some of the scholars who have applied for the scholarship, and they're saying they're not going to provide a scholarship report after the conference. So that is already automatic off for us. And of course, we are also looking at the regional representation. We want to have, if not equal, but we want to have each region presented. And also we are looking at the aspect of gender. We want to have 50% of men participate, and of course 50% of female participation in the Wikimedia in WikiIndaba conference. And of course there are other things that we will also consider, like I think I already mentioned it, active contributors in WikiIndaba projects. And of course, also we will consider, as soon as possible, we'll give priorities to session speakers who have submitted at least a speaking proposal. And of course, we will also look at the aspect of people who have applied for it, and even they do not have a username on Wikipedia. Of course, we want to have as many people, newbies, as possible, but also we want to have people who will also create impact to the community that we have. Yeah, so that is it briefly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for blowing it open like I needed it to be. So I understand that the deadline for the scholarship application was yesterday, being 7th of October 2021. When can applicants expect the outcome of the applications? I mean, time is really short. And for those who approved, who got the approval, when would the funds get to them?
Okay, so thank you so much for the question. So we expect to take about 2 weeks to look through the application, because trust me, we got more than the application, more than the registration. We got about 354 applications in total, and we are a small committee. So we expect to finish and give feedback by 23rd of this month. And of course, we tend to have 1 week of, that is the week of October 25th to 30th to start reaching out for more details that we might need to transfer the funds to the beneficiaries.
Okay, and in essence, by month end, everybody who got his scholarship approved will get the funds.
Yeah, by 30th
Okay,
of this month.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you for that. Everybody who applied surely should wait till 30th to probably get their funds transferred to them. And talking about what the scholarship covers, do you think it will help achieve the planned outcome in terms of attendance? I recall once again, Alice mentioned diversified attendance for this year's WikiIndaba conference. And do you think the coverage for the scholarship will help to give the desired outcome? And why do you think so? If yes, of course.
Yeah, I would say yes because already our we want to have at least 25 people attend, and already by our strategy of having the scholarship divided into three, we will cover almost a half of the participants, that is around 100 people. And yeah, I think we will really achieve the goal of having as many people as possible to attend the conference.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And that will be the last main question. But first, before we move to the next segment, can you tell us your favorite wiki acronym?
Okay, interesting question. So, to me, my favorite is WFR, and this stands for Wiki for Refugees. So I'm
Hmm.
really passionate about this, and I just like it because this is a community that we have not been, could I say, we have not the hard to reach community, and us going to have this community together to co-create and collectively improve information about refugee settlements on Wikipedia is great. And of course, this has been able to change a lot of things that has been written about the refugee settlements that were not correct. And also, it was an opportunity for us to learn and also think of the community that are not reached, so that we have as many people as possible to contribute on Wikipedia.
Okay, thank you for actually mentioning that acronym. I, for one, didn't know there was such an acronym or maybe such a unit that existed. But this is quite insightful. And then we'll go back to Pascal. Pascal, I'm really sorry I forgot to ask for your favorite wiki cipher or acronym.
Yes, it's not sure it will become a real acronym because it's not officially chosen, but you have heard from U4C in some documents for the enforcement and perhaps for the name of the committee or for the name of the officers. But how did we find this U4C? And it's amazing because I think I do not reveal a secret from the committee, but when we were discussing, I said the UCOC was in four parts: why, what, the do, and the don't. Why it's introduction, what is the UCOC? It's the first section. What you have to do, incitative rules, is the second section, and the don't is what you shall not do. It's the third part. So it's the four pillars from the UCOC. And so someone wrote in another document UCCCC, and he made in brackets U4C. And that's when you see U4C, you know it's why UCOC, what you have to do, what you don't have to do what is forbidden. So it's a way to memorize, a simple way to memorize UCOC. That's all.
That's interesting, knowing that one could carry the code of conduct at heart with just these four alphabets per se, or the very short acronym that Pascal just provided us. Thank you so much, Pascal, for that. And then Sam, Patrick, and Pascal, of course, is there anything else you would like to add to the discussion so far?
I'll just say thank you so much for having us here to talk about this. It's great to reach out to your communities with more information about this whole UCOC acronym soup. But I also wanted to let people know that, you know, even though the drafting committee is going back to work on the 17th, if you have new ideas, please give them to Sam, give them to us on Meta. You know, it's not like the conversation is over. So let's keep talking about the best ways to improve that policy and improve the enforcement. And it's not written in stone. It needs to be a living document. So, you know, if there's things in there that you're scared about or don't like, talk about it. These things can be changed. We're a wiki.
Thank you for that. That's reassuring, knowing that even after the 17th, there's still an open door to approach you guys for suggestions. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sam, anything from your end?
Yeah, from my end, it's quite similar to what Patrick has already said. I would say, even though he said that after 17th, you can still bring in suggestions and recommendations, I would say we still have a full week before the 17th. So you don't have to wait till it's over. So if you have anything that you feel is concerning about the current EDGR or the current enforcement draft, and if you have anything at all that you feel like needs to be corrected, if you have any concerns, if you have any corrections, just let us know. You can reach out to me directly, like Patrick said. You can also go on your local Wikipedia. On the village poem, there's a message there stating that the process is ongoing. You can leave your comments under those messages. We're watching them. You can also go onto the Meta page and join the global discussions. That's also all right. But make sure that if you have something in your mind regarding this entire process, regarding the enforcement draft guideline, regarding anything concerning the UCOC, let us know about it. Leave your comments. Let us know what you think about it. Just tell us. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Pascal?
I think in a couple of months we will have a valid document, but any rule cannot be applied if people do not assimilate it. So I hope we make a living document, and I hope people will like it and be happy to work on this enforcement of the code. It's a living process. We have a lot to do, and it can be a great experience, I believe.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And then coming to you on WikiIndaba, Sandra, is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, just a quick response to a question from, I think, Florence. She was asking whether we'll be able to review all to approve each of the requests that we provided before. Yes, we will be able to do that. And trust me, we are already starting to work on it tomorrow. So we already have a strategy in place. And as I already said before, we have already some of the application that will automatically be eliminated. Like if you're not writing a feedback report, then why would you need a fund to support your participation during WikiIndaba? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. But I mean, this is actually a very concerning question because I for one have witnessed the level of how do I say bureaucracy involved in most of these events. And then, is there something like a backup plan in case maybe the funds don't get to these guys within the time you stipulated? Is there a plan B that you choose to maybe follow?
Um, I would ask you, why wouldn't they have the funds? Maybe, yeah, but in case that happens, we will still be able to give them immediately after the conference. But
Okay.
I think for now, the Wiki Media Community User Group already has the funds in place, so that shouldn't limit the scholars getting their funds. But also one thing I'm urging everyone here who is participating, please, please, please register and attend, because as you can see, there are overwhelming applications for the scholarship, yet we also want as many people as possible to register and attend the WikiIndaba conference that is happening from November 5th to 7th. Yeah.
Thank you for that reassurance. I can say you guys have everything on lock. So we look forward to having a successful weekend. But then, moving forward to the news segment, with me today is Candy Kohiwe. She will be joining me to, of course, give highlights on what we have in the news section. Hello, Candy.
Hi, Cecilus.
The new session has the first thing, as in the spirit of Wiki Loves Love, if I would say, we say big congratulations to the newly wed. But then, thank you everyone for making your time to be with us. Thank you, Patrick. I guess it must be very early in your part of the globe, but yet here you are answering to these tough questions. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Pascal. And thank you, Sandra. Thank you, everybody who has found time to tune in to join this session. And then we say a big congratulations to the newlywed wiki couple, Nasima and Yamen. They got married recently. If there's anything that's enough reason to take your wiki engagement more seriously, guys, the love of your life could be hiding somewhere in the movement. So you need to engage more to find them. Candy.
Thank you, Cecilus. So Marianna Eskander has been appointed as the new CEO of the Wikimedia Foundation. She's an Egyptian-born American social entrepreneur and lawyer. She lives in South Africa, but is expected to move to the US to start her new role officially in the Wikimedia Foundation on the 5th of January 2022. She will be on one of our Wiki Africa Hour episodes in the near future. So make sure you are subscribed to the Wiki in Africa YouTube channel to not miss this episode. Over to you, Cessus.
The AfroScene project core team is happy to inform you that the month of African Cinema Contest is happening again this year in October and November. You are encouraged to join to win amazing prizes. Please check the link on the Wiki Africa Hour newsroom for more info.
Great. The Wiki Loves Women hashtag She Said International Campaign 2021 is now live. Please participate by creating entries about women on WikiCode. For more about this, go on to the Wiki Africa Hour newsroom to get more details. Yeah.
The Movement Charter Drafting Committee community elections is to take place from 11 to 24th of October 2021. Please go to the link of the Wiki Africa Hour newsroom to learn more about the process. Candy?
Right. Yes. Wikimedia Foundation Trust and Safety Team is creating a new project that aims to maintain and expand peer support networks within the Wikimedia communities, to improve the working atmosphere of our projects, and to aid in the fight against harassment. For more about this, visit our newsroom on the Wiki Africa Hour meta page.
Then some of the 2021 Wikipedia pages warning photos campaign prize winners have been announced. Please go to the link on the WikiAfrica Hour meta page to access the details about who they are. Thank you. Candy?
Then the Wikimedia Foundation physical um, year fundraising report covering from the 1st of July 2020 to the 30th of June 2021 has been published. For more details about this, definitely visit our meta page, newsroom.
The
Oh,
2021 Wikilost Folklore contest has ended and the winners have also been announced. Please go to Wiki Africa Hour meta page, the newsroom, to see who they are and the prizes they won.
The hashtag day map challenge. Sorry, the 30-day map challenge data visualization projects starts on the 1st of November 2021. For more information about this, visit our newsroom on the meta page.
There is a call for smaller language wikis to participate in the technical capacity building program. Please go to the Wiki Africa Hour meta page, the newsroom section, to get more info.
And then we have the call for proposal for Wiki Convention Francophone ends on the 11th of October 2021. And please learn more about making a submission. Just follow the link onto our newsroom meta page.
The Creative Commons has announced call for case studies with $1,000 compensation about working with low-resourced cultural institutions in non-Western countries. Please go to the Wiki Africa Hour newsroom to get more details about how to submit your case studies. Thank you.
The annual hashtag OneLib1Ref campaign invites librarians, researchers, book lovers, and Wikimedians across the world to add missing references to articles, helping to make the encyclopedia more reliable and useful. For more information about this, definitely visit our newsroom. Yeah, on the meta page. Yeah.
To help bridge Wikipedia's visual knowledge gaps, the research team at the Wikimedia Foundation has launched the Wikipedia image/caption matching competition. Please go to our Wiki Africa Hour newsroom to get more details about this competition.
And then lastly, we have the Wiki Loves Women is seeking a confident, eloquent speaker who's passionate about gender equity and open movement to become a host for this groundbreaking series, a podcast for Wiki Loves Women. So, for more information about this opportunity, definitely visit our newsroom to get more details.
And that's it for the news for today. And thank you guys once again for showing up. Now we know what goes on behind these wiki acronyms: UCOC, EDGR, U4C, and of course, we now have an idea of what the WikiIndaba 2021 scholarship program looks like. I believe every attendee and participant now has a better understanding of the processes involved in the UCOC and of course the EDGR. And then thanks to our special guests once again who have shared their knowledge with us. Don't forget to subscribe to our Wiki in Africa YouTube channel to keep tabs on past and future episodes of the Wiki Africa Hour and other Wiki in Africa programs. On behalf of the Wiki in Africa team, we thank everyone for showing up once again. We thank Andrew Lee and his Wikipedia Weekly team for providing us access to the StreamYard platform. We thank you, Patrick, Sam, Pascale, Sandra, once again for honoring our invitation. Candy and I, Cesla Subunaya, wish you a happy weekend. See you next time.
This episode of Wiki Africa Hour was hosted by Ceslas Obanaya. Let us know what topics you want to discuss and join us next month on the same channels. Subscribe to the Wiki in Africa YouTube channel.